I bid adieu to France as I set off for my final destination, the tiny landlocked principality of Andorra.
Tot i això, tu terror, l'argent, els diamants són tejos, jo les vull sontejo. Baixaré, baixat, lutaré, cremaré, preneré, panaré, sofeiment. Eixes negre, batulosiré, són pirata, les pirates no encara. Tutti els mals que se m'hi era pou, remblic de tresors de ses neus. Passaren els anys de pitat a damunt, era seu en apeteni un bon dia, rebem per a la muntanya, el cor pres a l'herba flaire.
In case you missed it earlier, Andorra is that tiny speck on the map between France and Spain. Chances are you've never heard of it. It truly is one of Europe's last forgotten nations, and also one of its strangest. Founded by Charlemagne in the 9th century, Andorra was originally ruled by the Catalan Bishop of Urgell. But being smack dab in the middle of two of the world's greatest colonial powers, you're probably wondering how Andorra managed to avoid being conquered. Back in the 11th century, Andorra struck a deal with France and the Bishop of Urgell that they would allow them to keep their sovereignty, provided they had some say in what goes on here. So to this day, the country is officially ruled by a prime minister, but also the current Bishop of Urgell, as well as the French president. However, this bizarre status was threatened in the 1930s when Russian author and adventurer Boris Kostyrev proclaimed himself King of Andorra. So why have so few people heard of this nation? The country was virtually isolated from the rest of the world until the early 90s. Then, in just 2 decades, Andorra went from being an isolated hermit state to one of Europe's most modern nations, and also one of its most popular skiing and shopping destinations. This is thanks largely in part to the fact that despite having the euro as its official currency, Andorra is not a member of the EU, has no sales tax, and almost no income tax. Today, Andorra is Europe's 6th smallest nation, and is home to just over 77,000 people, some of whom only live here for part of the year. Nearly half the country's population are Catalans, followed by Spaniards, Portuguese, and French. Its people have the longest life expectancy on Earth, averaging around 81 years. But if you're thinking of moving here to increase your longevity, forget it. The nation has one of the strictest immigration laws on Earth. Andorra is also regarded as the birthplace of Catalan culture, and the Catalan influence can be seen pretty much everywhere. The official language is also Catalan, though Spanish, French, and Portuguese are also widely spoken. In fact, the only thing considered uniquely Andorran are its stone churches. But despite being one of the oldest nations in Europe, very little of its old history remains. The locals have accused their own country of being incredibly boring. Add to the fact that a lack of airport and train stations means the few crazy travelers who actually do want to come here, like this guy, have a hard time getting here. But one good way to visit the country is to join up with an organized tour, which is exactly what I'm doing. My Andorran adventure begins in the small border town of El Pas de la Casa.
we are already in Andorra. Here you can see the first town called Pas de la Casa. So this is the first town we find after the French borders, and you can see how busy it is, how many shops, how many business they are here. We are going to stop again. It's about 5 minutes. There is a panoramic point and you can take a picture.
Oh wow, beautiful. We've just crossed the border into Andorra and we have an amazing view of the Pyrenees Mountains. Alright, down there you can see the town of Pas de la Casa.
So, if anyone wants me to take your picture, just tell me.
The snow-covered peaks soon give way to evergreen forest as I descend towards the Inkless Valley. No, it's warm.
So this is here when people they were living, people they were going.
We're about to go check out the traditional Andorran village.
No other house.
Oh, this is cool. We have these traditional stone houses scattered all throughout the valley, so you can get a sense of what Andorra was like back in the old days.
So slate material and
It's like mud.
this is like mud. Exactly. So it's a mix.
Very pretty. Yeah. It's so lovely. Yeah.
What are those walls?
Well, this is to protect the different parts of the land. That in the past, every family they had, like this is your part, this is my part. So it was the division between different parts of their land.
Ah, okay.
No, Lucy. Well, it's
Just from the hall to the party.
From the Inkless Valley, it's just a 25-minute drive to the nation's capital of Andorra la Vella. I'm in the Andorran capital of Andorra la Vella. It translates to Andorra, the city situated at an altitude of 3,500 feet, Andorra la Vella holds the proud title of being the highest capital city in Europe. It has been the principal city of Andorra since the 13th century. The town remained virtually isolated until the early 90s, and today this modern European capital is home to just over 22,000 people and is often described as a giant shopping mall due to its large number of duty-free shops. Right here we have the city's famous Salvador Dali melting clock sculpture.
Like iced coffee. Oh, it's very warm. Sure.
I'm not really interested in the modern shops, so I'm going to check out the Bari Antique or the Old Order.
On this area here, the cars they don't enter, right here. And here, right behind there is the first church from town. So here you can see also, right behind, so you can see the new versus the old construction. So you can see that here is old construction, the new.
This building is behind me, the San Esteve Church, translated to St. Stephen Church, and was built between the 11th and 12th century, but was heavily restored in the 20th century.
Ancient times. So the thing is that they preserve the place of the traditional mountain in Andorra. But you can see that people, they are all fenced.
That's fine.
And they have to all in order to go all fencing at the same time. So every time that everyone moves a piece of the other one, has coordination. So
this building behind me is the Casa. It was built in the 1580s for the Busquets family. Now in 1702, the building was acquired by a general council, and for nearly 5 centuries it was from this building that the Principality of Andorra was governed. Now, this took place all the way up until 2011, and during that year the main government building was moved to a more modern facility. So as you know, I often travel to places to try to debunk negative stereotypes, but in the case of Andorra, I actually ended up confirming them. This is by far the most boring country I've ever been to. There's almost no historical sites here, and yeah, they got beautiful mountains, but you can find that in other countries. So Andorra doesn't really have anything unique that you can't find elsewhere. But at least I can fill in that little dot on my travel map, having been one of only a handful of Americans who've traveled here. Well guys, my adventures through Catalonia and the Pyrenees has almost come to an end, but I still have one more stop to make before I head home. Well guys, I think it's only appropriate that I conclude my adventure in the region where it began. So I've crossed back into Catalonia and we've stopped at this restaurant in the middle of nowhere for complimentary snacks and drinks.
How we can pay for this?
So no, this is paid for. That's the company.
I have to be honest, Catalonia, France, and Andorra were three places I've never had much interest in visiting or learning more about, but this trip turned out to be far more enlightening than I ever could have imagined. In just a few days, I developed a new appreciation for Catalan nationalism, became seduced by French charm, and experienced one of the world's least known nations. My hope is that I will one day return to an independent Catalonia. But until then, there's plenty more of the world left to explore.